This is Shane Vaughn, and he is one of the leaders of the Trump cult. I would say he's at the top right alongside Johnny Enlow. We'll probably talk about him a little bit later, too. But let me draw out their ideology for you. The ideology of the Trump cult. It's like a mix of Christianity and Republicanism, some weird mixture of it. Let him explain it for you. He said this early November 2021. Check it out.
And he wrote down, we are going, he wrote a course, to New Israel, New Israel, New Israel.
He's describing like founding fathers or pilgrims or whoever else coming over to the U.S.
And when they came off the ship, they didn't plant an American flag. They planted the Christian flag. On the soil, they dedicated George Washington.
Ignoring the fact that the American flag didn't exist at the time, they did not plant a Christian flag in the soil.
George Washington knelt and prayed, dedicated America where the Twin Towers stand or stood. That's where America came into covenant with Yahweh, with God, was where the Twin Towers stand.
That's not true. None of it. Literally nothing he just said is true in any way. George Washington, what the thing that he's talking about there with George Washington, he's talking about a famous painting of George Washington kneeling next to his horse. This painting right here, this painting doesn't actually represent reality. This never happened. George Washington did not kneel next to his horse and pray next to whatever. The painting is real, but the thing it's depicting is fake. And that's what Shane Vaughn is describing. He's saying this painting is a painting of George Washington bringing America into covenant with Yahweh. After Jesus bebopped along, Yahweh broke covenant with Israel and formed a new covenant with America when George Washington knelt in front of whatever and said this prayer. Completely made up. Completely made up. Right off the top of the dude's head. Nothing about this is real. But that is the Trump cult. That's the Trump cult belief. They need America to be in a new covenant with Yahweh, because if America isn't in a new covenant with Yahweh, then Donald Trump can't be the new Messiah. And they do believe him to be the new Messiah. We'll get there in a second. Keep listening to what he has to say here.
That's where America came into covenant with Yahweh, with God, was where the Twin Towers stand.
Wow. Ain't that something?
That is where George Washington prayed, right? There's a chapel right outside the Twin Towers where George Washington, that picture of him praying by the horse, that's where it happened. That's where...
There is a chapel outside the Twin Towers, or where they stood. It's called St. Paul's Chapel. There's a church there, too, I think. Completely made up, though. This is all made up entirely. That's the only true thing in this whole thing that he said so far, that there's a chapel there.
He dedicated our nation in covenant to God. If you will make us a great nation, deliver us from tyranny, then we will serve you. And he gave the nation to God at that point. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence were descendants of the tribes of Israel. We can trace it. We know it.
No, to literally all of that. That is completely made up. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence was a descendant of the tribes of Israel. They were all Jewish? No! Where is the guy even getting all of this? This is nuts! This is the Trump cult. I'm telling you guys. Insane.
We know it. I was a doctor of theology. I was the youngest ordained evangelist in America at 14 years old.
No, that would be Marjo, was the guy's name. I forget his full name now. Marjo Gortner. He was the youngest ordained minister at, I think, 4 years old. He went on to become a televangelist, and eventually he went on to leave televangelism and debunk other televangelists. And man, was he good at it. You should look the guy up on YouTube. I've actually done a video about him. Just search Marjo Telltale or something, and it should come up. It's really fascinating. He was the youngest evangelist at 4 years old, not 14 years old. But this guy doesn't care. He's a leader in the Trump cult, so anything he says is automatically true, and that's all there is to it. It doesn't help that the people that he speaks to accepts what he says blindly.
Ordained evangelist in America at 14 years old.
Wow.
I've lived for the Lord my
whole
life, and I was dumb as a box of rocks and didn't know it. At 40 years old, because I thought that a Jew meant Israel and an Israel meant Jew.
And in Israel meant Jew. Okay. So anyways, that's the Trump cult ideology. They believe that America is in covenant with Yahweh. They've made a new covenant with Yahweh, and the old covenant with Israel has been broken, basically. And that justifies everything that they say and do and believe. That justifies all of the atrocities because they're doing it in God's name. They seem to have some weird obsession with Joe Biden. Naturally, I mean, Joe Biden beat Trump in the polls and in the election. So naturally, they would have a real problem with him. They believe that Trump was ordained by God, anointed by God to be president. And then Joe Biden comes in and wins an election. The only explanation is that Joe Biden is a demon who set out to reverse prophecy and somehow succeeded, ? How did he succeed in reversing something that God wanted? You got me. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They believe it, and that's what matters. They will believe absolutely anything if it furthers their love for their leader, Donald Trump, for their religious leader. And if you feel like I'm going too far by calling him their Messiah or religious leader, just wait. I will prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt and make you comfortable calling this a religious cult too by the end of this video. Just stick with it. So Biden gives a speech the other day in Philadelphia where he's talking about how the MAGA movement is an extremist movement and it's a problem for society because they keep rejecting democracy. There are two outcomes to an election. Either I win or you cheated. That's kind of the idea behind the whole speech Biden gave, right? Well, Shane Vaughn, leader of the Trump cult, had some things to say about it. Listen to what he said, early September 2022.
Something hit him when he got up there. I know what that something was. The power of Satan himself.
Talking about Joe Biden.
Yeah. Just like Senator Palpatine in Star Wars can barely walk until Satan touches him, and then he becomes this rough and tough. But he's a coward without Satan's power. When he came
Yeah, what he's saying here is that Joe Biden doesn't have all of his faculties about him, when in reality, he does. He does. The idea that Joe Biden has dementia is propaganda. There's no basis for it. Joe Biden has a stutter. He has since he was a little child, and they use that as an example of him having trouble with words and fumbling over his sentences and everything else. The guy doesn't have dementia. There is no reason to believe that he does, except for the heavily edited clips that imply that he does. For example, a while back, there was a clip that came out. I don't have it on me right now, but there's a clip of Joe Biden meeting the Pope. And he walks up to the Pope and says, "You are a famous African-American baseball player." And then it cuts away. That didn't happen. You know what actually happened? Joe Biden walked up to the Pope and said, "There was a famous African-American baseball player." Then pauses for a second to wait for his translator to come up because the Pope doesn't speak English very well. When the translator appeared, Joe Biden continued to tell a story about this famous African-American baseball player who broke through barriers and overcame segregation and all of this other stuff. It was a photo op, it was a beautiful story, and the Pope and Biden stood together and smiled and shook hands and all that stuff. And the far right, people like Shane Vaughn, spread around cut clips of Biden calling the Pope a famous African-American baseball player. He doesn't have dementia. Never did. It is simply propagandistically edited clips that have been released strategically to make people think that he does. And Shane Vaughn bought into it. Because he believed it? I don't know. I think it's more likely that Shane Vaughn wanted to believe that Biden has dementia or is incapable or whatever else, because that justifies his belief that Donald Trump is the God Emperor, as he calls him, or the Messiah, more accurately. So anyways, his claim is that Biden has dementia and is completely incapable, and that created a cognitive dissonance in Shane Vaughn's mind, because he just watched Joe Biden get up on stage in Philadelphia and give this long, coherent, well-thought-out speech about the MAGA movement being dangerous to democracy. So how does Shane Vaughn square that circle in his head? How does he rationalize his false belief that Joe Biden has dementia with the fact that he just watched Joe Biden on screen give a flawless speech without really stumbling over his words once. How does he come to terms with that fact? Keep listening. He explains it here.
Satan touches him, and then he becomes this rough and tough, but he's a coward without Satan's power.
So he believes that Biden came out and stumbled over his words, and then Satan touched Biden while he's speaking, and then cured his dementia temporarily, just for like 30 minutes, long enough to give the speech, and then it was right back to Dementia Town. You would think that Biden and Satan would be close enough at this point, based on how Shane Vaughn and others speak about him, that Satan would just remove the ailment entirely from Biden, right? Weird.
When he came there, the drugs kicked in, and he delivered a commanding speech. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. So not only was Satan stepping in to help Biden get rid of the dementia, but also he was taking medicine. Okay? You know, I've never had anybody in my life have dementia before. I'm lucky enough to have not had to deal with that yet. Probably eventually will, unfortunately. But correct me if I'm wrong, you can't cure Alzheimer's with medicine, right? Or you can't pull somebody out of it by giving them medicine, can you? It may make it slightly better temporarily for a short time, maybe. Is there even a medicine that does that? I don't know. The way Shane Vaughn is putting it, Biden just has to take medicine every day and boom, the guy doesn't have dementia anymore. Well, you'd think that he could just keep taking the medicine and not have dementia. I don't understand this guy's thought process.
Commanding speech. Oh, yes. By his standards. He started off real hoarse, but like a pro, he managed to get over it, fumbled over the first few words, and then Satan took over. Joe Obama spent weeks preparing this speech and the background. This was something that was set up by Satan himself.
And how does he know that? He just does. God told him. That's how he knows. And that little reference to Joe Obama, that's actually a set of memes, Joe Obama memes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these before, but you know, we need a good laugh. Why not, right? Obama, why'd you text me to come over? Joe, I got 2 Nerf guns under the table. On 3, we shoot the Republicans. Obama, we're in the middle of a meet. You in or you're out? Obama, Joe, did you get rid of all the candy bars? Biden, I didn't want him to be reminded of his time at the Wonka factory. Talking about Trump, I assume. Some of these are really old. This is like when Trump was just elected and trying to take over office or whatever. Biden, why are we running? Obama, Joe, you can't just let hamsters loose in the White House. Biden, but I gave him name tags that say Donald's hair. Obama, we have to find him. You know, some of them are pretty funny. Biden, Barack, we have to run. Obama, where are we going? Biden, we have to hide. They can't make us leave if they can't find us. You know, some of them are really good. I like it. I like a lot of it. But anyway, that's what Joe Obama is. Joe Obama memes. They're hilarious, honestly. You guys should just go through Pinterest and look at some of them. But anyway, I guess this guy was referring to Joe Obama in the sense that Obama is running everything for Biden. No basis in reality. No reason to believe any of that, but whatever. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. Okay, now here's where it gets real. You remember earlier I told you I would justify me saying that to Shane Vaughn, Donald Trump is the new Messiah? This is where that justification comes in. Listen to this, mid-August 2022.
What is the prophetic seal that Yahweh placed upon Donald Trump and upon his true people?
The prophetic seal God placed on Donald Trump
is supernatural prosperity and blessings. That's the prophetic seal. The ring of God, when he touches your life, there will be unparalleled blessings that will come into your life that you didn't ask for, you didn't create. You're just anointed for that season, and the evidence of it is on the prosperity of the nation and the people. Donald Trump
carries the prophetic seal of the calling of God. He is Joseph. If you are anointed by Yahweh for a specific plan and purpose, you are a Messiah.
There you go. Shane Vaughn, in clear, direct terms, telling us that Donald Trump is a Messiah. He is a Messiah anointed by Yahweh. Dude's not little. He's not a tiny little guy. He's a televangelist, and a famous one. He's not a nobody.
Yeshua was the Messiah of mankind, but Donald Trump is the Messiah of America.
They believe Donald Trump to be the new Messiah. If that doesn't kick it for you, if that isn't enough, check this one out. Mid-April 2022. This is Jovan Pulitzer. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was one of the people who ran some of the Arizona vote audits and stuff like that. He's pretty influential. And the person who's interviewing him, this is Ann Steele something. I forget her name now, but she runs a show called The Steel Truth on all kinds of crazy networks. They're right-winger. They're Republicans. Long story short. Listen to this.
I'm going to give you a name of somebody. You come back and give me one name or one descriptive word. Trump.
Don't take this wrong, but remember I'm Jewish, and a Messiah is, in Judaism, is the person who would bring the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to the world. A Messiah means a great leader, a great prophet. I believe that Donald J. Trump is a Messiah for what's called the New Jerusalem, which is the United States of America. He was it, and he opened everybody's eyes. That's the only way I could describe him. He's a prophecy fulfilled.
They believe Donald Trump to be the Messiah. Seriously. They believe that America was brought into a new covenant with Yahweh. The old covenant with Israel was broken for one reason or another. And Donald Trump is the Messiah to New Israel, a.k.a. America. That's not all Shane Vaughn focuses on. The dude has made Donald Trump's enemies his enemies. Listen to this one, early August 2022. This is Shane Vaughn doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on his belief that Donald Trump is the new Messiah and should be worshipped as such and followed and emulated in every way.
I believe that God gave us another chance to rally again against the dark forces of an evil Biden empire. Wherever you are hiding, Barack Obama, we see your hands behind it all. But I want you to know something. The very gallows you have built for our president, watch out, sir. Watch out, sir.
I think the guy believes that Trump is the Messiah, the new Messiah, and Obama is the Antichrist. It's hard to know. I know that most televangelists tend to think Obama is at least influential in the sphere, and we're in the end times now, and the Antichrist is already on the scene. And some of them say that Obama is Gog of Magog or whatever. So I'm not sure how Shane Vaughn specifically views this, but he obviously thinks Obama is like some kind of an evil master, some influential mastermind pulling strings behind the scenes. I'm assuming he thinks Obama is the Antichrist, but take it with a grain of salt. I'm not 100% sure on that one. So he believes that there's going to be a huge face-off between Obama and Donald Trump, and it's going to be a spiritual battle where they fight each other, and Trump goes to heaven and serves next to God as an heir over the entire earth, and Obama, being the Antichrist, is killed by him and goes to hell for all eternity or whatever else. That's how this guy views the world.
There's going to be a day of vengeance by God Almighty, not by me and not by men, but by God Almighty.
So anyway, this guy is completely disconnected from reality and has completely turned Trump into the new Messiah at this point. He is fully pulled into the Trump cult. In fact, he is one of the leaders of it. This clip came out early May 2021. This is after Trump had been removed from like Twitter and Facebook and, you know, all the other social media networks. And Shane Vaughn was trying to find a way to spread his new Lord and Savior's message to everybody. Listen to what he had to say here. He had himself in the corner for some reason, so I blow this up and I make him big. It's a little grainy, but just stick through it. Listen to what Shane Vaughn says about Trump here, being removed from social media.
We need 100,000 patriots to become reporters for Donald Trump. Get his words out there, since they wanted to be so smart that they wound up being stupid. Because they made the same mistake that Satan made when he killed Jesus Christ.
Okay, Satan didn't kill Jesus. Jesus was sent to earth to be sacrificed as a ransom for humanity so that he could redeem us or whatever, and we had a chance at living forever, whatever else, right? Satan didn't kill Jesus. Satan did not decide to kill Jesus. Satan wasn't even in the mix here. Jesus came to earth to save us.
By killing that one man and killing his voice, he created a world full of little Christians that echo the message of Christ. See? Stupid on the devil's part. The Bible says, had Satan known what was going to happen, he would never have crucified Jesus.
No, it doesn't, because Jesus wasn't crucified by Satan. Satan had no role in this whole process except to try to tempt Jesus. That was it. This whole thing was to help humanity, had nothing to do with Satan trying to get one over on God. This is, if you remember, this is the guy who claimed to have been the youngest pastor at age 14, or the youngest ordained minister or whatever at age 14. Remember? Not only was he not the youngest ordained minister, is he even ordained? Does he know what he's talking about? He doesn't seem to.
Happen, he would never have crucified Jesus Christ. Because what he did was he started a harvest of Christians that echo the message. He only had one man to deal with. Now he's got a whole population full of us.
Okay, now before he continues, let me just point out how weird and disturbing it is that he just made a comparison between Jesus and Donald Trump. That's odd, right? To compare Jesus to Trump. Trump was removed from social media, and he seems to be implying that it was the work of the Antichrist or the devil or whatever to silence Trump, just like he silenced Jesus, even though that's not what happened. That's weird. That's one too many comparisons to Jesus for me.
Same thing they're doing with Trump. Let them crucify him. But we're now the echo, and we're going to put it on every page, every Twitter account, everything we got. Now, because the oversight board didn't rule that we couldn't share Trump content. It's allowed on Facebook, for now anyway. So take advantage of it while we can. I'm ordaining all of you right now as evangelists of the Trump revival.
The Trump revival. Isn't that an interesting turn of phrase? Isn't it fascinating that this guy keeps comparing Trump to Jesus, keeps calling Trump the Messiah, and wants a new Trump revival? Cults don't have to be religious. There are a lot of cults out there that are non-religious. Like, for example, Heaven's Gate had religious elements to it. It was really a UFO cult. Scientology claims to be a religion for tax purposes. It's really a psychology cult. Let's see. Nexium is not a religious cult at all, really. There are a billion out there. There are a billion cults out there that are non-religious. Don't have to be religious to be a cult. This one is. The Trump cult is not only a cult in itself, but also it's a religious movement. They believe Trump to be the new Messiah now. And I'm absolutely fascinated to see where this goes, but I am deeply disturbed at the same time. How are these people going to react when Trump dies? I mean, the dude is 79, 78 or something like that, right? He can't possibly have longer than 15, 20 years under his belt, can he? I mean, how old would Trump be in 15 years? How old is he now? Trump is 76 right now, okay? So in 15 years, Trump's going to be 91 years old. In 20 years, he's going to be 96. What are they going to do when he dies? What are they going to believe when this happens? How are their beliefs about Trump going to change when that takes place? Is he going to be a new martyr? They obviously believe him to be a messiah. Is this religion going to persist for the next generation? That's really what I want to know. In 30, 40, and 50 years, are there still going to be people out there worshiping Donald Trump? Like full-blown worshiping the guy, viewing him as a messiah, as Shane Vaughn does right now. God, everything in me wants to know right now how they're going to view Donald Trump in 50 years. Hopefully I'll be around to find out. Let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter at Telltale Atheist.